friends, welcome to today's Sunday service, where we are going to look into different characters of people who did great and big things with God. Today's story is about a lady, a woman named Esther. And the story comes from the book of Esther, chapter 4, all the way to chapter 7. This is the story. Esther was orphaned when she was very, very young. Orphaned meaning that her parents died when she was very, very young, which made life very, very difficult. However, God had big and great plans for her. She was adopted by her cousin called Mordecai, and Mordecai loved and treasured her as his own daughter. While under the care of Mordecai, King Xerxes at the time, he ordered an issue to bring all the young, beautiful women so that he can choose a wife. When Mordecai heard that, he told Esther, "Let's go so that you can be presented to the king, and maybe, you never know, the king might choose you as the next queen." And that's what happened, guys. King Xerxes had favor, and when he saw Esther, he was very attracted to her, and he picked her out of all the beautiful women and made her queen. However, for her own safety, Mordecai advised Esther not to reveal her true identity, that she was a Jew. Now, there was an evil man named Haman. Haman held a high position under the king. He was very, very evil and had a very, very cold heart. He went and convinced the king that he should issue an order to kill every Jew and Mordecai. When Mordecai heard those news, he was very saddened. He ran to Esther and told her everything. He told her that Haman was planning to kill him and to kill every Jew. And Esther was also filled with so much sadness. Imagine risking your own life to save other people. Have you ever done that? Have you ever risked your own life to save someone else? Because that's what Esther did. She risked her own life. She risked by telling the king her true identity and also telling him that Haman was planning to kill her, to kill Mordecai, and to kill her own people. When the king heard this plot that Haman was planning, he was very mad and ordered for Haman to be killed. Today's lesson is about Esther helping God's people. Have you ever been in a position where you really need to help someone who's next to you? Maybe it's your neighbor, maybe it's even your parents or even your teacher. I urge you to be like Esther, who was brave enough and kind enough to do this one thing that helped her people. Do you know what happened? The Jews were never killed, and Esther helped God's people. There's a lot of celebration for what Esther did. Esther was brave enough, and I urge you, boys and girls, to be brave enough to stand up against injustice and people who want to do bad things and evil things. Stand up, and you be brave enough and courageous enough to stand against such practices. Today's memory verse comes from the book of Jeremiah, chapter 29, verse 11, and it says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Now is that special time that I ask you to ask your mommy or your daddy or whoever is around you to help you in giving money for Jesus. And thank you so much for always remembering to give money for Jesus. From the story of today, we have seen how Esther was able to save her own people. God had big plans for Esther, and she lived a remarkable life. I have a question for you. If you have this big assignment, will you get scared because you're afraid to do it? Or will you be brave enough, courageous enough to stand and say, "I will do this big assignment"? Because that's what Esther did. She had this big assignment to do to help her people, and that's what she did. She helped her own people. She stood against injustice and was able to help the Jewish people. Thank you so much for joining us this Sunday, and hope to see you next Sunday as we learn about the big things that people did with God. Bye!